is the last day of 2024 and I just finished all of the content for this video, and I don't think I ever actually filmed an intro for the video. So let's do that really quickly. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Rara's K-pop spot. 안녕하세요 친구들. 내 채널에 다시 오신 것을 환영합니다. 이곳은 라라의 K-pop spot. Today's video is my week-long readathon that I decided to set for myself for the very last week of 2024, where I decided to read 7 books in 7 days, all of them by Korean and Korean American authors. I like to read. I had a lot of books on my shelf, lots of translated works, a variety of genres, a variety of book types, different types of media that I consumed, physical books, audiobooks, ebooks, comic books. I had a great time. So let's rewind it now to a week ago, which was December 25th when I started all of this. And let's read 7 books in 7 days together. Okay, good morning. It is the first stop on Rara's grand 7 books in 7 days adventure. It is currently December 25th. It's Christmas morning at 8 o'clock. And this morning we are starting with A Crane Among Wolves by June-Hee. So this will be my first book in the readathon for the week. It is a historical fiction. I think there is slow burn romance as a subplot, but I think it's considered historical fiction. I'm a little bit nervous about chapter 42. I've seen a lot of people crying over chapter 42, so I am a little bit nervous about that. But this is the longest one that I'll be reading this week. I figured I would start with the longest one to make my life get easier as the days go on rather than harder. So I'll just check in a couple times throughout the day today. And you can pause to read about it here. Okay friends, I'm here at the 50% mark doing a check-in. So I'm halfway done with A Crane Among Wolves. It is now 3 p.m. Progress is going a little bit slower than I thought that it would today, but that's okay. It is like way better than I thought it was going to be. The story truly captured my attention from the beginning. I have been very invested and it was very easy to fall into the story from very early on. So that's very helpful. I think it would have been a little bit more difficult of a reading day for me if I wasn't super invested in the story, but it has kept my attention from the jump. So it is very good so far. The pacing is very compelling, if that makes sense. The story is dual POV. So we get chapters from Isol's point of view and chapters from Daehyun's point of view. I like that. I like getting both of their perspectives while I'm reading, but also I found it interesting that Isol's chapters are written in first person and Daehyun's chapters are written from third person perspective. So I think that that was a really interesting choice. I like the juxtaposition there. So far, I'm also finding the way that the relationship between Isol and her sister being portrayed to be very interesting, because obviously I've mentioned many times that I have a sister. She's made cameos in a couple of videos in the past. I film in her room most of the time, and she is younger than me by a couple of years. So it's really interesting for me as an older sister to be reading from Isol's point of view as a younger sister. The whole sister dynamic has been really interesting, especially the way that their relationship is so fraught. I'm very invested in Daehyun and his relationship with his half-brother, the king. I think that the way that sibling dynamics have been explored in this book so far has been very interesting. This book also definitely has me more interested to learn more about Korean history, because there's an author's note at the beginning of the book where June-Hee included a little bit of context about the history and the time period and who King Yeon-san in the book was based on. She goes on to say that several of the acts that King Yeon-san commits in this book are based on historically accurate things that King Yeon-san did in the past during the Joseon dynasty. King Yeon-san in this book is a highly detestable character, so I shudder to think that he is based on a real tyrant from history. I would like to learn more about the Joseon Dynasty period, just based on reading half of this book. Historical fiction is normally not a genre that I read very much of, but I am really, really, really enjoying this one so far. And I'm getting increasingly more nervous. I'm on chapter 22 right now. I am getting increasingly more nervous the closer that we get to chapter 42. Okay, because I'm getting attached to these characters. And I'm hoping that there's some kind of happy ending for Isol and Daehan, but I'm trying not to get my hopes up too high. I'm back, and I'm thinking maybe I should just quit while I'm ahead, because first of all, he paints. Poor, sweet Prince Daehan. He paints. He paints in his free time. They just hit me with the good old, may we meet in another lifetime, and may it be kinder to us. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I am getting the historical K-drama vibes. I am terrified. Night has fallen. I have about 65 pages left of the book now, and I figured we're gonna do some time lapse of me reading these last 65 pages because everything is now kind of coming to a head. I figured I would record myself finishing it because I think there's a good chance I'm gonna cry, so. If by any chance we do not meet again in this lifetime, then I will find you in the next, or as many lifetimes as it takes to see you again. Someone's gonna die. Oh my god. Well, I didn't see that coming. I no longer know what's going on. The historical note at the end of the book was very impactful. Anyway, I'm done. Minimal crying. I teared up a little bit and I got a little sniffly nose, but I didn't cry like I thought I was going to. So, we're gonna call that a success. I really enjoyed this book. Really strong start to my readathon. I'm somewhere between 4 and 5 stars. It was very good. I need to think about the ending a little bit more before I come to a decision. Okay, we are back at it again today. It is now Thursday, December 26th, and it's about 11:30 in the morning, and we are on to book number 2 now. Today we are actually reading a book that I own as an ebook, so we're reading on my Kobo today, and today we're reading The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie Oh. This will be my second read by Axie. I have also read XOXO. This one is considered fantasy. I believe it's young adult fantasy, so it is a little bit shorter than the one that I read yesterday. I started it this morning. I'm about 15% of the way in so far. I like that this one just opens up and in chapter 1 drops you into the main plot of the entire story. So really doesn't leave you any time to get bored. Like, you're just dropped right into the main action in chapter 1. So I like that. Sorry for the weird pause to read moment on this one, but here you go. I don't think I'm far enough in at this point to have any other strong opinions other than I like that it started very quickly. But anyway, I'm gonna go read a little bit more now and I'll check back in again at the 50% mark. See how we're feeling. Okay, I am back with my 50% check-in for The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. It is 4:30 p.m. now. I am enjoying this one so far. I think maybe not quite as much as I enjoyed A Crane Among Wolves from yesterday. Comparing the two at the 50% mark anyway, I think I was enjoying A Crane Among Wolves a little bit more than I've been enjoying The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea so far. I think that the setting is beautiful. I really love the way that the spirit world is being described. I am very intrigued by the red thread of fate that has come to connect Mina and Lord Shin. I am very confused about everything that's going on with the sea god, just in general. Don't know what his deal is. I have a lot of questions about Lord Shin's lack of a soul and what he used to be the god of at this point in the book. I am also echoing a lot of Mina's anger and frustration at the lack of connection between the gods and the humans upon her discovering that prayers from humans are just going unanswered and uncared for, and how frustrating that is when humans put so much of their hope and love into honoring the gods, worshiping them, praying towards them, for that to just not be recognized at all. I echo her frustration there. That would also shake me to my core if I was in her shoes. So there's a lot of complex stuff going on here. I like the mythology that's woven throughout with the inclusions of the different gods, the inclusion of the Imugi. I think there was a reference to the Gumiho as well. So there's been lots of Korean mythology that's been interwoven throughout. And like I said, the scenery as it's being described is beautiful. The setting is beautiful. It's very easy for me to picture it in my mind. And it all truly sounds just stunning. It's reminding me a little bit of the Talon series by Sophie Kim in just like the beauty of the descriptions of this alternate realm that the story is taking place in. Anyway, this is a standalone, and I feel like I have a lot of questions that still need to be answered in the second half of the book, and I'll check in again in a bit. Despite the look on my face, these are happy tears, and I 10 out of 10 would read this book again in a heartbeat. 10 out of 10 recommend. Okay, it is now the next day, but I had to come back and talk about my final thoughts on The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea because I finished it really late last night and I just went straight to bed. I loved it. The second half was super strong. I know at the 50% mark, I kind of still felt maybe a little bit on the fence about whether or not I truly was gonna love it, but the second half was incredible. The story was wonderful. The writing was beautiful. The characters, I loved every single one of them. I obviously cried at the end. They were happy tears though. They were happy tears. I just really got swept away by the story. There were a couple of like small-ish plot twists in the second half that I didn't see coming, which was a nice surprise. Although like hindsight is 2020, looking back, I'm like, I should have picked up on that, but I did not. That's okay. But I loved it. So I loved A Crane Among Wolves as well, but I think I loved The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea just a little bit more. So far, 2 incredibly strong books to start my readathon. Since I don't have another phone with me at the moment, pulling up my computer to show you that today is the 27th of December. So we are on day 3 of my week-long readathon. Today's book is one that I bought when I was in New York. I picked it up off of a table in the Strand. It is a work of translated Korean literature. So this is The Cabinet by Kim Un-soo. It's a little weird so far. I think it's considered a sci-fi book. When I tried to look up what genre it was considered, sci-fi was overwhelmingly what was coming up, but then the little blurb on the front says, the stories straddle the lines between science fiction, fantasy, fairy tale, and acute reality. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of different things. I am about, I would say once again, maybe like 15 to 20% into it so far today. And it is very different from what I normally read. It's an interesting concept for sure. It's a very original, very unique concept. I think the writing style it almost feels satirical. I'm intrigued by the story, well, the stories that are contained in The Cabinet. I am intrigued about the symptomers. I'm very interested to see where this story is going to go. It's narrated by Mr. Kong, and I want to know more about him. It's very outside of my normal box as far as reading goes, which I really do like. Every now and then I like to read things that are outside of my typical box that I put myself in as a reader. This is definitely one of those times. So we'll see. I'll check in again around 50% and I'll let you know how it's going. It's I don't know, it's very original, it's very unique, it's hard to describe. Here is the back cover and you can pause to read more about the book. Okay, we are at a little bit more than 50% now. I'm about 2/3 of the way done. It is 4 p.m. on the 27th. I have maybe 35% left of the book. And I don't know if I really know what to think of this one. It is just so different from anything that I've ever read. It is considered like a mosaic novel because almost every chapter is different. The one thing that's consistent is that we do get several chapters from Mr. Kong's point of view, who's the narrator of the story, but the chapters that are about the symptomers are all different. So it is mosaic in the fact that every chapter is like a different piece that comes together to make up the whole book. It's very interesting. It is just very, I don't know, it's very hard to explain. I've never read anything like it before. It's not bad, but I don't know if it's necessarily for me. And that's okay. Not every single book that you read in your life is going to be one that you like. I don't dislike this one. I just don't know how to explain how I feel about it. I think I need to sit with this one for a little bit longer before I can fully appreciate it and really kind of get to the bottom of how I'm feeling about it. We'll see how it ends. I'm very interested to see how this is going to end because I assume we'll need to get some kind of an ending for Mr. Kong's story. So we will see how things are going to wind up for him. Is anything going to come of the symptomers, or are we just going to learn about all the different types of symptomers and then get an ending to Mr. Kong's story and that's it? So I don't know. We'll see how the last third of the book goes. I'll probably check in tomorrow morning to let you know how I think of it. First of all, because I'd like to sleep on it, but secondly, because I think I'm probably going to finish this one pretty late tonight, and so I probably won't speak to my final thoughts until the morning. Okay, greetings, Earthlings. It is now Saturday the 28th. And I am wearing the same sweatshirt that I was yesterday, so here's my timestamp to prove that it is actually Saturday the 28th now. I finished the cabinet last night, and I am very sad to report that I wound up not liking it very much at all. I was really trying to be open-minded and stick with it throughout all of my reading yesterday, really, but the end was just terrible. It was hard for me to even get through the ending because, like I mentioned in my K-drama video, blood makes me like very sick, makes me want to pass out. I don't do well with like gore or like really bloody kind of horror, and this book took a very gory turn in the last like 50 pages. Even though I was just reading it, I was like picturing what was happening in my head, and it was making it was very hard for me to finish the book. I really couldn't. I was like skimming, I was having to skip parts, I was reading very fast because it was like in disgustingly excruciating detail describing terrible things that were happening to the narrator, and I was like, okay, this is not for me. This is not for me. So that was very unexpected. That was not the turn that I thought the book was going to take at all. And it's really unfortunate because like I had said earlier, I didn't dislike the book. It was definitely different than what I was used to reading, but I did not dislike the book up until the very end. That ending was just the worst. And I didn't like the resolution that the narrator got. The ending ruined the book for me. So I did not like it, but that's okay because books are a form of art and art is subjective, and I'm not gonna like every single book that I ever read, and that's okay. I am still glad that I read it. I'm always glad to be able to have the chance to read translated Korean literature. It wound up not being for me, and that's okay. Today's Saturday, so we're on to book number 4 in the week-long readathon. Today's book is The Colliding Worlds of Mina Lee by Ellen Oh. And I'm enjoying this one so far way more than I thought I was going to. I'm about 60% of the way done this morning. It is right before 12 o'clock, so I've been reading most of the morning. This one I actually am listening to the audiobook because it was available to check out on the Libby app from my library, because after reading 977 pages in the last 3 days, my eyeballs hurt and they're tired, so I'm giving my eyes a little bit of a break this morning and I'm listening to this one on audio, but I'm keeping track of how far I've read. I am actually really enjoying this one a lot. This one is, I feel like I would kind of consider it YA magical realism, but I think technically it is considered YA speculative fiction. And it follows Mina Lee, who writes her own webcomic. It's a webcomic about teens that have superpowers, and there's this corrupt business organization that is kidnapping the teens and siphoning their powers for the power-hungry, corrupt CEO of this company. Mina actually gets transported into the world of her webcomic. And once she's in there, she realizes that the superhero is actually the supervillain, and nothing is as she expected it to be based on how she had been writing the webcomic. I think that this would do so well as an actual graphic novel. If it ever were to be styled as a graphic novel or a comic book, I think that would be super, super cool. It's talking about the Big Bang Theory and multiple universes, parallel universes, string theory, quantum physics. It's getting like very scientific for a YA novel. I love it. My brain is eating this up like it's a delicious little soup. I am very interested to see how it's gonna end in the second half. I have 40% left. It's very quick. It's like only 294 pages. So Mina's got to figure out how to get home. She's got to figure out how to save the characters in this comic book that she's created, or perhaps it's a parallel universe in which her childhood best friend who died when he was 6 is still alive, and they are like falling in love. How is she gonna leave him behind? I mean, I have a lot of questions about what's gonna happen in the last 40% of this book, but it is extremely good so far, and I love it. And like normal, here you go. You can pause to read more about it if you'd like. Okay, checking in today for the first time. It is now Sunday the 29th, and it's about 4:45 p.m. And today's check-in is coming to you late because it's been a very busy day for me today. So this is the first time that I've had a chance to check in for this video. So I have some updates. First update would be that I found a better place to sit my phone so that I can talk with both my hands. First update will be for The Colliding Worlds of Mina Lee, which I finished last night. I did wind up listening to this whole book on audio. The audiobook was a real game changer and really helped me multitask. So I'm really glad that I decided to listen to this one on audio, both because my eyes hurt and needed a break, but also because it let me multitask like a champ. I really enjoyed this one. I think I'm going to go with 4 stars for it just because the ending was a little bit too open-ended in my opinion, but that's just a personal preference because I'm not normally a very big fan of open-ended endings. As far as open-ended endings go, this one was okay. I don't like an open-ended ending. I want to know what happens for the main characters. So that was one reason why I decided to go 4 stars instead of 5 on this one. Also, I feel like the action climax big fight scene at the very end, it felt anticlimactic. It wasn't really as big as I thought that it was going to be, and it was also resolved relatively quickly and easily, and I was like, I feel like the stakes needed to be a little bit higher. Those 2 reasons would probably be why I decided to go with 4 stars instead of 5, but I still really enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun. It was very action-packed. I loved the quantum physics that were included throughout and the concept of like time paradoxes and what that meant for the 2 timelines. I really think it was well done from like a scientific standpoint. So I like this one a lot. I think everyone should read it. It was very fun. Today's book that I've been working my way through is Welcome to the Hyunam-Dong Bookshop. And this one has been on my to be read list for a while, like I think probably since the end of last year. I am almost done with it now. I have less than 100 pages left at this point in the day. I have also been listening to this one solely on audiobook today. You can see I haven't even checked in yet and I'm already done with the book because this one has just been extremely easy to immerse myself in. I think this one is categorized as psychological fiction or like urban fiction. It's very cozy. Cozy is a word that I want to use to describe what this book feels like. If I had to compare it to anything to kind of give you an idea of what it might be similar to, if you have watched the K-drama Love Next Door, I would say that it feels similar to Love Next Door, not in plot, they're very different in plot, but just in like ensemble cast, the kind of real life problems that are addressed and brought up and dealt with in Love Next Door feel very similar to the kinds of real life problems that are being brought up and talked through in this book. I guess you could probably categorize it as like slice of life. It's very low stakes, possibly no stakes. It's just very comforting to read about the cast of characters in this book and the problems that they're going through and the emotions that they're working through and what they're facing in their daily life. It has a lot of commentary surrounding success and what that looks like in your adult years, and specifically what that looks like if you don't have what would be considered a traditional or successful career path. It talks a lot about loneliness and dealing with loneliness as an adult. It has a lot of commentary surrounding relationships, not just romantic relationships, but also relationships with your parents, relationships with your friends, with your community, with your coworkers. So it is considered psychological fiction, and it is a book that's really making me think about these similar types of themes in my own life and kind of reflecting on that. So I do see why people would consider this psychological fiction. It does have a very reflective kind of quality about it. And I've always been someone who finds comfort in media, film, books when I feel like I can relate to characters who are facing struggles that I have also faced in my life. So this one is feeling a little bit like a form of bibliotherapy for me. I got very lost in the story while I was listening to the audiobook earlier today. This one was just incredibly easy to sink into and to really just kind of relax. It almost feels like the characters are friends that I would have in real life, or friends that I would want to have in real life. So it's just very comforting. It's very reflective. It has raised a lot of questions that I've been thinking about myself. There was one passage in particular that really stood out to me that I was listening to driving to the grocery store this morning that was talking about generally people feeling like they don't have enough time these days. And that is specifically something that I struggle with a lot, is feeling like I never have enough time, just in general, to be everything that I want to be, to do everything that I want to do. So that one really resonated with me a lot. And after reading almost all of it this morning, I absolutely understand why it is considered the heartwarming Korean smash hit. So, because it is heartwarming. I think heartwarming is a really good way to describe this one. I think that this is one that I will enjoy rereading even more than I'm enjoying it just reading it through the first time. So I think this is one that I'm going to hold close to my heart. Possibly my favorite one that I have read so far. Hi friends! We are nearing the end of this journey. It is now Monday, December 30th. Let me find a calendar to prove that for you real quick. There you go. It is Monday, December 30th. It is now day 6 of my 7-day readathon, so we are very nearly at the end. And today I have updates about my final thoughts on Welcome to the Hyunam-Dong Bookshop and my first thoughts on today's book, which is the Dallergut Dream Department Store. I realized that I forgot to take one of these yesterday for you to be able to pause and read what Welcome to the Hyunam-Dong Bookshop is about. So here you go, you can pause to read. Okay, final thoughts on Welcome to the Hyunam-Dong Bookshop. 5 stars, easily. This one has been my favorite one that I've read so far. It's hard to compare this one to my other 5-star read so far, which was The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, because that was young adult fantasy, and this one is considered psychological urban fiction. So 2 completely different genres, so I don't think that it's really that fair to compare the 2. I just really like the psychological aspect of this one. I think it was really interesting, in my opinion. It really kept me captivated from the start all the way to the end. And The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, I had mixed opinions about it for the first half of the book. This one consistently kept me engaged and gave me a lot to chew on mentally from the very beginning. So I think this one will probably wind up being my favorite from the readathon, but I still have 2 more books to finish, so stay tuned. I wish that I could visit the Hyunam-Dong Bookshop because I think that it would heal everything wrong with me. And then today's book, Monday's book, is the Dallergut Dream Department Store. This is a book that was actually on my want to read list for a while. I think maybe I originally heard about it. Someone recommended it on Instagram maybe. And when I was in New York for the 17 concert, Stevie and I went to the Union Square Barnes & Noble, and I was just walking around, and while we were in there, I had just found Welcome to the Hyunam-Dong Bookshop, and it reminded me of this one. I went to find it in the fiction section, and they happened to have 2 copies, and we turned it over, and on the back, it has been blurbed by Wonu. Not, I don't think directly, because it says Wonu, member of the K-pop group 17 from Weverse magazine, so I think he mentioned it in Weverse magazine, and they just took that and used it as a blurb. But that was such a happy surprise when I realized that this book that I wanted to read had been one that Wonu has read and enjoyed in the past. But at this point, I'm about halfway done. It is currently 3:34-ish p.m., so I've read half of it today. I'll finish the other half tonight. And this one is super interesting. I think this one would be considered maybe fantasy, maybe magical realism. I'm not sure if it fits squarely into either one of those categories, but it's the Dallergut Dream Department Store, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It is about a department store in a town that's hidden in our collective subconscious that sells you your dreams every night. And it is such a lovely little story so far. It's very quirky, it's very quaint, it's very pleasant to read. I am really enjoying it so far. It's unlike anything I've ever read before, a very original storyline, very original concept. The ensemble cast of characters, they're all so interesting. I love reading about all of them. Penny is the main character, and she is a new hire at the Dallergut Dream Department Store. And it kind of just follows her as she starts this new job and gains her footing in the store and in her new role. I find this book very fascinating. There's an author's note at the beginning where she talks a little bit about the psychology of sleep. And I took a psychology class years ago in school, and the lesson that we did on sleep was one of the most interesting ones to me. So I think that this is such a unique concept and a really, really great way to kind of explore possibilities of why we dream, how we dream, what we dream about. And I don't know, I'm really enjoying it so far. It's a very easy read. It's very digestible. It's going very quickly. So I'm getting a lot of comfort from this one today. I'm kind of excited to go to sleep tonight because now I'm like, what if there is a dream department store? The customers of the department store in the book don't remember that they have been there before because you're wiped of your memory of going there to buy your dreams every morning when you wake up. Of course, like society might collapse if we all knew that there was a department store where we buy our dreams every night. So who's to say that this isn't how we get our dreams every night? None of us would remember upon waking up. So I really want to visit the Dallergut Dream Department Store. The way that it's described is just so creative and so original, and it's so easy to picture in my head, and I wish that I could actually visit. Okay, friends, can you believe that we are already at the end of my week-long readathon? It is now the last day of the year. It's Tuesday, December 31st, 2024, and we are reaching the end of this video. I am happy just because, as much as I love reading, I don't think I like reading one book every day for 7 days in a row. I think that's too much. I finished up the Dallergut Dream Department Store last night, and I wound up liking it a lot. I think I'm feeling 4 stars on this one because it was enjoyable, but it just didn't like knock it out of the park for me. It is the first in a duology, so I need to figure out when the second one is going to be available translated in America. I'm not sure if it is already or not, so I need to figure that out because I definitely want to continue reading about Penny and Dallergut and all of the other cast of characters in this book. I have high hopes for Penny in the second book. I really feel like she's on the track to become Dallergut's successor, so we will see if that is actually what winds up happening. I was thinking about this book right before bed, right? Because I finished it right before bed, but I'm pretty sure that last night I dreamed about a dream department store. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Was it just because this was what I was reading right before I went to bed? Probably, but I choose to live in my fantastical world where perhaps I actually visited the Dallergut Dream Department Store last night. And once again, I forgot to take a pause to read video yesterday, so you can pause to read about it real quick. And now, for the last read in the week-long readathon, we are back on my Kobo, and today we are actually reading a graphic novel, so like a comic book. It is a translated graphic novel called Banned Book Club, and I'm actually very excited. I'm already more than 50% done with it. I was actually very excited about this one. Stevie found this one and recommended it to me. And first of all, I was excited just to have the inclusion of a graphic novel because I wanted to kind of diversify the things that I was reading. So I really wanted to kind of read a range of different types of literature this week, but specifically, this one is translated comic book, but it's also considered nonfiction because it's the author's memoir. And I think that that's really cool. I actually did not realize that when I first decided that I wanted to read it. It wasn't until I was reading more about it before I started it that I was like, oh, this is literally like her memoir in graphic novel form. And I think that is so cool. It's set in 1980s South Korea during apparently a very turbulent time in South Korea's political history. And it talks about Hyun-suk entering college and joining a banned book club.
Please enjoy another awkward pause to read moment.
I think that it's very relevant to today, even though this takes place in the 80s, because they are still trying to ban books today. I'm a little more than 50% of the way through with this, and it's very short. It's a graphic novel, so it's like less than 200 pages, but it is an excellent way to get a very quick overview and a very easy to understand overview of what the political landscape looked like in South Korea during this totalitarian regime in the 1980s. And I think that this is so impactful. This is very profound. I'm learning a ton, and this is truly the magic of books because I am learning about Korea's history, a piece of Korea's history anyway, just from reading Kim Hyun-suk's memoir that's a graphic novel this morning. I think that this is a very important graphic novel, a very important memoir. So I think that this is a really great example of why I love to read, because while we read for fun, yes, I think we should always remember that we should also be reading to learn. As we read things that we want to read just for fun, we should also be reading things that educate us every now and then, because that's a very important part of reading. So I am very invested in this. And this, I'm sure, is only scratching the tip of the iceberg for what Korea's political history looked like during this time period, but it has intrigued me enough that now I want to go learn more about this time period. I am really enjoying it so far. It is a really powerful graphic novel, and I feel very emotionally invested in the cast of characters and what they're experiencing and going through on this college campus. So let's sit down and finish it real quick together. Okay, and with that, it is now 9:45 in the morning on the last day of the year, 2024, and I am done. So Rara's week-long readathon comes to an end now. And this comic book gets 5 shining stars from me. It was incredible. In less than 200 pages, I got a really good high-level overview of the political landscape of South Korea in the 1980s and how absolutely just awful it was for the people. And I absolutely loved Kim Hyun-suk and all of her friends, the cast of characters that she fictionalized for this memoir about her time in college, joining a banned book club. I really liked how the last chapter was a class reunion that takes place 33 years in the future at a protest in 2016 for the president at the time, who was eventually impeached and imprisoned. I really like how the last chapter of the class reunion emphasized and highlighted that progress is not linear and history is bound to repeat itself. But as long as people come together and don't forget history and stand up together for what they believe is right, you're not alone and change can still happen. I loved this. Loved this. And similarly to how A Crane Among Wolves at the beginning of my readathon made me want to really understand better the Joseon Dynasty period of the 1500s, this graphic novel has encouraged me to learn more about the political landscape of South Korea in the 1980s and learn more about the people that protested the totalitarian regime and joined banned book clubs and fought for what they believed in. It was very inspiring, very educational, and I can see why this is a very popular comic book. in South Korea. And I am very happy that it was translated to English so that people like me can have a chance to read it and learn from it and enjoy it as well. With that, I think I will wrap this video up. I have no clue how it's going to turn out because this is my first time trying anything like this, but I had a good time because I just got to read books for the last week of the year, and y'all know how much I love to read. My last video of 2024, I mentioned that I had 12 books by Korean authors on my shelf that were waiting to be read, and I made a huge dent in that by completing this readathon. So I think that is it for this video. Thank you for sticking with me and watching to the end if you did. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books, if you have also enjoyed any of these books. If you have other book recommendations that you want to share with me, please let me know because I am always happy to accept recommendations. I'm always looking for more books to read. I hope your New Year's have all been off to a wonderful start. I am happy to be here with you in 2025. Let's read a lot more books together. I'll see you in the next video. That is all for today. Bye friends. Thank you for watching. 봐주셔서 감사합니다. 안녕 친구들. We can go to bloopers now if there are any bloopers to go to. And if not, there will be bloopers in the next video, probably. All right. Okay, enjoy, bye! Okay, doing a 50% check-in. Y'all know she loves to bark. The story truly captured by the 50% mark anyway. Comparing, I don't like where this is going. Imugi. Hi Val. Whoa, the fingerprints on that was gross. 5 stars for sure. And today's book, it kind of slapped myself with the tassel of my bookmark. It's fine. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think I know what I'm doing anymore. Would probably be themes that were discussed in this book were not. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. All right. I'm gonna stop this now. It is Tuesday, December 21st, 2024. Did I say 21st? And I'm getting really tired, so. But let me just eat my own hair real quick. Nah, that sounded really weird. I don't even know if this video is gonna have that many bloopers because there hasn't been much to bloop.